Hashtag Charles Bronson caught his co-star stealing from a charity. His revenge was legendary. The envelope arrived at Charles Bronson's house on a Thursday morning in September 1977. Inside was a photograph and a handwritten note that would change everything. The photo showed a man in an expensive suit getting out of a brand new Ferrari. The handwriting on the back was shaky, like it came from someone who was scared. Mr. Bronson. This is what Vincent Romano bought with money meant for sick children. I thought you should know. A concerned friend. Vincent Romano was Charles's co-star in The White Buffalo, a western they just finished filming. Vincent played a corrupt sheriff, which, as it turned out, wasn't much of a stretch. Charles studied the photo. Vincent had been very vocal during filming about his charity work. He ran the Romano Foundation for Children with Cancer, and he never missed an opportunity to mention how much money he was raising for sick kids. The crew had been impressed. Charles had even written the foundation a check for $5,000. Now he was looking at a Ferrari that cost more than most people made in 3 years. Charles made a phone call. "Mickey, it's Charlie Bronson. I need you to look into something for me." Mickey Cohen had helped Charles before, and he had connections throughout Los Angeles that could dig up information on anyone. "What do you need, Charlie?" "A guy named Vincent Romano. Actor. Claims he runs a charity for sick kids." "You think he's dirty?" "I think he's driving a car that costs more than his reported salary." 3 days later, Mickey called back with a file that made Charles's blood boil. The Romano Foundation for Children with Cancer was registered as a legitimate charity. On paper, it had raised over $200,000 in the past 2 years. But less than 10% of that money had actually gone to help sick children. The rest had gone to administrative costs, which apparently included Vincent's Ferrari, a new house in Malibu, and a very expensive lifestyle. But the worst part was what Mickey had discovered about the families Vincent had been lying to. "Charlie, this guy's been telling parents of sick kids that he's going to help them. Taking donations from people who can barely afford groceries, promising them that their money's going to find a cure for their children. Then he's spending it on cars and clothes." Charles felt that familiar rage building in his chest. He'd grown up poor. He knew what it was like to count every penny, to choose between medicine and food. The thought of someone stealing from desperate parents made him see red. "Mickey, I want everything you can get on this guy. Bank records, receipts, witness statements. Everything." "What are you planning, Charlie?" "I'm planning to make sure Vincent Romano never steals from another sick child." The next day, Charles drove to Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. He'd been there before, visiting kids as part of publicity events, but this time was different. This time, he was looking for victims. He found them in the pediatric oncology ward. Maria Santos was sitting beside her 8-year-old daughter's hospital bed when Charles walked in. The little girl, Rosa, was bald from chemotherapy, but her eyes were bright when she recognized the famous actor. "Are you really Charles Bronson?" Rosa whispered. "I am, sweetheart. What's your name?" "Rosa. I saw your movies with my papa. He says you always catch the bad guys." Charles sat down beside the bed. "Rosa, can I ask you something? Has anyone from a charity come to visit you? Someone who promised to help your family?" Maria's face darkened. "That man Romano. He came here 3 months ago with cameras and reporters. Said he was going to help us pay for Rosa's treatment." "Did he help?" "He took pictures with Rosa. Put them in his brochures. Promised us $5,000. Maria's voice was bitter. "We never saw a penny. When I called his office, they said our paperwork was lost." Charles felt his jaw clench. "Maria, I'm going to ask you to trust me. Can you write down everything that happened with Mr. Romano? Every promise he made, every conversation you had." "Why?" "Because I'm going to make sure he pays for what he did to you and Rosa." Charles spent the entire day at the hospital. He found 6 families that Vincent Romano had promised to help. 6 families who had posed for pictures, shared their stories, allowed their sick children to be used in fundraising materials. 6 families who had received nothing but broken promises. By the time he left the hospital, Charles had a plan. The White Buffalo premiere was scheduled for the following week. It would be a big Hollywood event, with reporters, photographers, and all the industry people who mattered. Vincent Romano would be there, basking in the spotlight, playing the role of the charitable actor. Charles was going to make sure it was a night Vincent would never forget. The premiere was held at the Chinese Theater on Hollywood Boulevard. The red carpet was packed with stars, and Vincent Romano was working it like a politician, stopping to talk to every reporter about his charity work. "The Romano Foundation has been my life's work," Vincent told a reporter from Entertainment Tonight. "Helping sick children is more important to me than any movie role." Charles watched from across the street, hidden in the shadows. He was carrying a briefcase full of documents and photographs. He was also wearing a wire, connected to a recording device that Mickey had provided. At exactly 8 p.m., Charles walked across the street and onto the red carpet. The reporters immediately surrounded him, shouting questions about the movie. But Charles had only one thing on his mind. "Vincent," he called out. "Vincent Romano. I need to talk to you." Vincent looked up from his interview, smiling broadly. "Charlie. Great to see you, buddy." They embraced for the cameras, 2 co-stars at a movie premiere. But when Vincent tried to pull away, Charles held on tightly. "We need to talk," Charles whispered in Vincent's ear. "Now." "Charlie, this isn't the time." "It's exactly the time." Charles led Vincent away from the crowd, toward a quiet corner of the red carpet. The cameras followed, sensing drama. "Vincent, I want you to tell everyone here about your charity work." Vincent's smile faltered slightly. "Charlie, what are you doing?" "I'm giving you a chance to tell the truth. Tell them about the Romano Foundation for Children with Cancer." Vincent relaxed, thinking this was just publicity. "Well, as you know, Charlie, the foundation has raised over $200,000 for sick children." "How much of that money actually went to sick children, Vincent?" "Well, all of it, of course. After administrative costs." $18,000, Charles said loudly enough for the microphones to pick up. Out of $200,000 raised, $18,000 actually went to help children. The rest went to buy you a Ferrari. The red carpet went silent. Reporters pushed closer, sensing a story. Vincent's face went white. "Charlie, I don't know what you're talking about." Charles opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of photographs. "This is what I'm talking about, Vincent. Bank records showing money from your charity going into your personal account. Receipts for your car, your house, your vacation to Hawaii. All paid for with money donated by parents of dying children." He held up another photograph. "This is Rosa Santos. 8 years old, leukemia. You promised her family $5,000 for her treatment. You put her picture in your brochures. Then you spent their donation money on a new Rolex." The cameras were flashing constantly now. Reporters were shouting questions. Vincent was trapped, with nowhere to run. "Charlie, please." "No, Vincent." "Please what?" "Please don't tell everyone that you've been stealing from cancer patients. Please don't let people know that you built your lifestyle on the backs of dying children." Charles turned to the cameras. "Ladies and gentlemen, Vincent Romano has been running a fraudulent charity for 2 years. He's stolen over $150,000 that was supposed to help sick children. I have evidence that he's lied to families, broken promises to desperate parents, and used pictures of dying children to raise money for his own luxury lifestyle." Vincent tried to push past Charles, but Charles stepped in front of him. "Where you going, Vincent? Back to your Ferrari?" Back to your Malibu house that you bought with blood money? This is insane. Vincent shouted. Charlie's lost his mind. This is some kind of vendetta. Show them the receipts, Vincent. Show them your bank records. Prove me wrong. Vincent couldn't. Because Charles was right, and everyone knew it. The premiere was ruined. Vincent Romano left through a back exit, chased by reporters and photographers. The story dominated entertainment news for weeks. But Charles wasn't done. The next day, he delivered all of his evidence to the FBI, the IRS, and the California Attorney General's office. Within a month, Vincent Romano was under federal investigation for charity fraud. Charles also did something else. He called a press conference and announced that he was establishing a real charity for children with cancer. He personally donated $50,000 to get it started, and he challenged other Hollywood stars to match his contribution. The children that Vincent Romano lied to deserve better, Charles told the assembled reporters. They deserve people who will actually fight for them. The Charles Bronson Foundation for Children's Cancer Research raised over $2 million in its first year. Unlike Vincent's fake charity, every penny went to research and patient support. Vincent Romano was eventually convicted on multiple counts of charity fraud and tax evasion. He served 3 years in federal prison and was ordered to pay full restitution to the families he had defrauded. But the real victory came when Charles returned to Children's Hospital 6 months later. Rosa Santos was still there, but she looked stronger. Her treatment was working, paid for in part by the Bronson Foundation. Mr. Bronson, she called out when she saw him. You really did catch the bad guy. Charles sat down beside her bed. How are you feeling, sweetheart? Better. The doctors say I might get to go home soon. She paused. My mama told me what you did. Why did you help us? Charles looked at this brave little girl who had been through so much. Because that's what good guys do, Rosa. They protect people who can't protect themselves. Are you going to keep being a good guy? As long as there are bad guys who need catching. Rosa smiled. Good. Because there's a lot of them out there. Charles Bronson ran his foundation for the rest of his life. When he died in 2003, it had helped thousands of children and their families. But more importantly, it had shown Hollywood that celebrity charity work could be done right. With transparency, accountability, and genuine care for the people being helped. At Charles's funeral, Maria Santos spoke about the man who had saved her daughter's life, not just medically, but spiritually. Mr. Bronson taught Rosa that there are good people in the world, Maria said. People who will fight for children they don't even know, just because it's the right thing to do. Rosa Santos, now a healthy adult with children of her own, serves on the board of the Charles Bronson Foundation. She still remembers the day a famous actor walked into her hospital room and asked her about a man who had lied to her family. He could have just written a check and forgotten about us, Rosa says. Instead, he destroyed his relationship with a co-star, embarrassed him in front of the whole world, and made sure that everyone knew what had been done to us. That's not just charity. That's justice. That's the Charles Bronson legacy that matters. Not the movies, not the tough guy image, but the man who couldn't stand to see children being exploited by someone they trusted. Because sometimes the most important fight isn't on a movie screen. Sometimes it's on a red carpet, in front of cameras, calling out a liar who's been stealing from dying children. Vincent Romano thought he could hide behind his actor's smile and his fake charity. But he made one mistake. He stole from children that Charles Bronson cared about. And Charles Bronson never forgave anyone who hurt children. Not ever.